BTL, coming at you. Good Wednesday, everybody. Welcome to BTL Bass Talk Live, where we're going to talk bass fishing or anything else that we want to talk about. Matthew, show number 9 of 2019, a good one with Brandon Palahniuk.
It's going to be a good one.
Are you okay? Y'all right,
no,
man?
I mean, he's traveling. I was looking at the countdown here, and I was like, that can't be right. It's like 6 days away.
Yeah. We've been talking about it. Oh,
6 days.
By the way, I have some info right here, hot off the wire.
Some info?
Yeah, about times.
We're talking about the first Bass Pro Tour stop in history taking place on Lake Toho.
And 4 key words in these times.
Is one approximate?
No.
Oh.
Lines in, lines out.
Oh, that's right. You can drive to your spot and then start fishing.
Lines in, lines out.
Isn't that how your old man trail that you fish in Oklahoma is? Is it a lines in, lines out deal?
It's not lines out. You can start fishing at 6:45 or whatever.
But you can get
go
there
wherever
at
you want
6:30 and camp and eat your beanie weenies.
Absolutely.
Take your Metamucil and then start fishing at 6:45.
That's the beauty of it.
I do a couple of those. The Thunderbird Championship every year is a lines in deal.
Yeah.
I like that format.
Yeah,
I really do.
Here,
it's a lot less stressful.
All right, we're going to get to Brandon here fairly quick, but let me just go through this. Takeoff is approximately 6 a.m. every day, but they don't really have it, So at 7:30 a.m., it's lines in.
Okay.
Then at 10 a.m., lines out.
Oh, there's a break.
10:15 a.m., lines in.
Wait, there's a break?
Yes.
Did you know that there was going to be a break?
I had no idea.
So 3 hours.
Well, 2.5.
2.5. So, I mean, that's not that long. I would assume that maybe that's in there for the live stream for them to do interviews then, to actually be able to focus on it and talk with the
kind of cool.
With the cameras.
Kind of cool.
I really like that.
All right. So 10:15 a.m. lines in. 12:45 p.m. lines out.
So I fish the local MLF deal.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing, and you get a 15-minute break.
Yeah.
I fished one of them where I was smoking them, and I had to take that 15-minute break.
Yeah.
I was walking around the boat like a caged animal, Mark. I was throwing a trap, and I was catching them. I'm like, they're biting, so you got to stop.
Yeah.
And then the last one I fished, I didn't catch anything, and I spent that 15 minutes laying on the back deck of the boat, staring up, going, what is going on?
Yeah.
So that's an interesting dynamic. You're going to have some guys that lose their minds that have fished for 20 years and have never taken a 15-minute break.
Okay, so now 1 p.m. lines in, 3:30 p.m. lines out.
So 3 periods.
Yeah.
So it's not just go get them for 8 hours. They're breaking it down into 3 periods.
Yeah.
So
you agree with that? 4 key words to this event. Lines in,
lined out. Now I like it because now you're going to be able to get the period breakdown. You're going to be able to look at these guys and say, hey, the Boston Celtics really score well in the first quarter, and then they hang on in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, you go back to the TNT crew back in the studio with Charles Barkley
and say, hey, but his third period is always strong.
Yeah.
So I like it. That's a whole new element.
It's very cool. Did you know that?
No.
Hot off the press.
I did not.
All right. Now, what I'm waiting on, and hopefully I will receive today, we'll talk about it tomorrow, is what's going to happen after 3:30. In other words, what's the format as far as the press conference and what the guys are going to have to do? Maybe Brandon can talk a little bit about it when we get him on here. But, yeah, man, when I saw that and I got the word about the lines in, lines out, very interesting twist, my friend.
What do they call that, a wrinkle?
Not a wrinkle. No, I think it's
the way MLF was.
Yeah, it's cool.
But I just didn't. I don't know why it didn't click that they would probably stick with that format. But it's smart because what is one of the things that you have harped on for the past decade is the guys in the studio, the guys in the studio talking to the anglers live while they are trying to compete.
I don't like it.
That bugs you.
It does a lot.
Well, now they'll be able to talk to the anglers during the competition, but it'll be more like the halftime interview.
Yeah.
They won't have to be calling the plays. They won't have to be fishing. There's no outside influence where maybe you miss a bite because you're trying to think of an answer that some guy asked you that threw you off.
As long as they're good questions, all right?
Assuming that there will be even interviews.
But see, here's the deal. If they do interviews, they can't ask the obvious, because that is one thing that drives me absolutely bonkers with what they do in the NHL and the NBA. They ask these questions when the guys are in the heat of the moment during halftime or in between periods is the one that really bugs me, where they're asking NBA coaches, hey, what are you going to do to shore up your defense? Well, you know what? If I would have known that, I would have done it.
Yeah.
So, if you throw out the obvious question, hey, man, how are you going to catch more fish in that next period? Is that an obvious question?
That's a very obvious question.
Well, I'm out here doing my best. I may tweak this or tweak that or whatever. And here's the other thing. Since these guys are going to be on live, and we'll ask Brandon that, how much juice are they truly going to give up? Do they give up the entire juice now?
Well, because no one else will see it till after.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the other 40 aren't going to. Yeah, but the other 40 aren't going to be able to watch it.
So
that aren't competing, and then the guys who they're competing
juice?
Against obviously aren't. Yeah, I don't see any reason why they wouldn't.
No.
I mean, unless you're paranoid.
Some guys are.
That's what I said. There's some guys, but as a whole, I think you're going to see a lot more juice, especially once it's been defined exactly what they can and can't watch. I mean, the guys who are really going to benefit from this are the FLW guys that come in the next week.
All right. History will be made next week, folks. I know a lot of people, including myself, really looking forward to see how this thing's going to play out. All right. We made history this week, dude. We have our final show of the week tomorrow with Bernie Schultz, and we'll get his take on a lot of stuff, obviously going down in the state of Florida. That's why I think it would be a great idea to get him on the show. Plus, he had some stuff that he did during the Bass, let's just call it the Bass Conference, that he actually mentioned and talked about on the Bassmaster website. So we'll get his take, dive into a little bit more detail on his thoughts about what went down at that conference. Anything else, Matthew?
No. Looking forward to getting into it with Brandon. Obviously, a lot of history in Florida, which is why I love to bring up the Florida stats.
How many tournaments?
I don't know how many he's started fishing, obviously, the Elite Series in 2011.
Yeah.
So he has over 10 Florida tournaments under his belt. Would you care to venture how many top 30s Brandon has in Florida? We did this with Swindle. The stats.
How many tournaments? You don't know how many?
I didn't go through it. I want to say like 10 to 12.
Okay, over 8 years?
Yeah, over 8 years.
6.
No.
How many? And for the iTunes fans, how many?
0.
That would be 0.
0 top 30.
He didn't like Florida, huh?
He did have a 37th one year.
Ooh.
But there's a lot of...
knocking off the doors there, 37.
There's a lot of 70s, 80s, 90s. Remember when he won the Angler of the Year?
Yeah.
In 2000 and was it 17?
Yeah.
He started with 105th in Florida.
Yeah, you're right.
So
first guy to ever get that done with a triple-digit finish.
He's got some work cut out ahead of him starting the set. Now, who knows? Maybe in all those tournaments, he caught a ton of 1.5-pounders and just weighed in 9 pounds each day. He might have the numbers bite figured out and just hasn't been able to find that giant Florida kicker. But based on the tournaments that he's fished, he's got his work cut out for him to start this new venture out the Bass Pro Tour in 6 days.
All right now we're going lines out. Lines out. We're taking a break. Coming back with Brandon Palahniuk right here on a Wednesday. Everybody stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Sleek new design with easy control file. The clearest images underwater with uncompromising range. Live mapping from the touchscreen. View notifications, video, even Google Maps on screen. And for the first time ever, real-time view of fish movements with live sight sonar. HDS Live. New from Lowrance.
It's about the hours spent getting everything just right. It's the attention to detail. Good just isn't good enough. It's the years spent on the water day after day. When you tie on a bait by Strike King, you're standing on the shoulders of legends.
Pros depend on hydraulic jack plates to get the best out of their boats. Do what they do. Demand Atlas performance. Atlas gets you from the bottom to the top in less than 8 seconds, even with the big 4 strokes. And when you gotta turn right around and get that heavy load back up in rough water, Atlas's innovative design and American-made components will get you there with confidence.
I'm at Depot. Just look for yourself. There's an Atlas jack plate on just about every professional's boat.
The Atlas hydraulic jack plate. You can depend on it.
Hey guys, Aaron Martins here. I'm going to be telling you about a new product by Sunline. It's Siglon PE x8. I've been using it almost extensively all year for my frogging, flipping, drop shotting, shaky heading, worming, jerk baiting. It's by far my favorite Sunline braid. I honestly, this is, I don't say this unless I think it's true, but honestly it's the best braid in the market of any of the braids. Definitely check it out. It's a price point line, $14.95 for 165 yards, and that could last you a whole year, just one spool with using leader material. It's Siglon PE x8. It's my favorite braid, and I think if you use it, it'll be your favorite braid too. AFCO has a new foul weather rain suit called the Hydronaut. A lot of the features that I really like about it first is the speed vent hood. If it's raining out, you know, how a person gets wet is when you run down the lake and the hood comes down. With the speed vent hood, it's going to stay up. It has a camera mount in the pocket on the chest. The Hydronaut has a 2-layer, 100% waterproof nylon shell. If you're interested in a rain suit that has a lot of cool features that's going to keep you dry, you need to check out the Hydronaut from AFCO.
All right, we are back on a Wednesday, show number 3 and number 9 of 2019 for us. And looking forward to our next guest. And he's in Florida, still en route though, Matthew. And we've got him live via Skype. And really looking forward to it. I know kind of one of the faces of the next generation of anglers.
And the now generation.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been around a while.
8 years.
2010
is that right?
is when people first heard about him. Remember, he had the cover of the Bass Times magazine. I believe he was just wearing a T-shirt and a pair of jeans on the cover of that. I said, who the heck is this? He's like bowed up on a fish. I have not seen this cover in years, but I think that was the very first time that I ever heard of Brandon Palahniuk.
Yeah.
And then remember, for 2 years, we figured out how to say his last name.
Yeah, yeah.
And now everyone knows.
Yes, they do. All right, let's bring him in. Brandon, you there, man?
Yeah, I'm here.
Did I have that right? Was it the cover of the Bass Times in a T-shirt, bowed up on a fish?
Yeah. I think really the only part you missed there is I wasn't wearing jeans. I was actually wearing plaid cargo shorts.
Oh, okay.
Wow. All right, man. Where are you at? Are you in Florida?
Yeah, we actually just crossed over the Florida state line a little while ago. And just en route. It actually happens to be a long ways from Idaho all the way down to Florida.
You have the caravan, you have the boat, the truck, and the camper.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't know if you guys can see.
There's the
trucks right there. Campers behind me.
Who else is doing that this year? I've been following Matt Lee's adventure from Alabama down to Florida that is not going well.
Really?
Yeah, it's something. He got stuck that he almost like ripped the air conditioner off, having to get rerouted. And then what, is Lucas still doing it this year? So there's like a whole new generation of four things. You have the truck, the boat, the camper, and the other truck. So you guys are like the new generation of campers.
Yeah. It's a big convoy.
All right, Brandon, I want to jump right in there. You know, we kicked off the show talking about how the MLF format is going to be for the BPT, and I think it's very cool. What are your thoughts about having 3 breaks during the day? And I understand from previous MLF shows that a lot of that is designed to give the camera guys, maybe a little bit of relief and, new batteries and stuff. But now it's an opportunity to open it up to potentially you guys doing interviews in these period breaks. What are your thoughts on that?
I have mixed feelings, right? Because like Matt was talking about, where you can be on a bite that's really good. And especially if it's that first period where maybe it's a morning bite, like at some point we're probably going to run into a shad spawn deal. And you're like, you're catching them. It's like, oh, hey, you have to stop catching them. And like that, just that 15-minute period break can completely change the outcome of the event, I feel like. Because a guy can get that momentum, and then for whatever reason, I've seen it happen so many times in the last few years that I've fished these events, is that it can change that momentum. And a lot of things change just throughout that period that you don't normally see. So I think from a fan perspective of people just watching the event, it's going to be a lot more engaging. You're going to be able to see what guys are doing in the morning, and you really get to see that adjustment process. I feel like that break makes guys, think out loud and talk about it a little bit more, and really have to change with the day as it goes.
So if you were to be interviewed during one of those segments, are you the type of guy that would give up the juice?
I don't know that I'm going to give up the juice, because I don't trust all 80 guys 100% yet.
You can't blame him.
My honest opinion.
Yeah,
a lot of money on the line, right?
Yeah, I mean, we got $100,000 for first, like $42,000 for second. I mean, like, there's a lot of money on the line, and the other fact is that, like, although Florida residents have been like pretty gracious every time we've been down there, I still don't want like some guy watching it and like, oh, you give him all the details and then we have a day off. So that guy could be out there that whole day off pounding on him, and then you come back, So I may give details as far as what I'm doing, but I'm not going to talk about areas or, like we're going to be on the Kissimmee chain. I'm not going to talk about what lake I'm in. Things like that.
All right.
I think the other thing that the break is going to do is you will see a lot more fishing and a lot less screwing around. So like you get a guy on a live and stuff, and he breaks off, he's going to sit down, he's going to retie, because it's an 8-hour day. He's going to lose fishing time regardless of when he reties. So he's going to retie. In this deal, I think you're going to see guys that are going to have the practice, so they're going to know what they're doing, and maybe have 3, 4, 5 of the same things tied up. And instead of sitting there digging for new baits, re-rigging for that boom, they're going to go to the next rod, and they're going to be fishing, and then use that 15 minutes that they can't fish to get everything back in order for the next period to start. Are you going to be able to rig tackle in between the breaks, or do you just have to sit there like it's almost like a 15-minute penalty?
Well, here's the biggest mystery with that, is that we don't know if we're going to have to run all the way back to the rendezvous point, or if it's just going to be lines out and you can just stay, like toweling down wherever you're at. Because in all the previous MLF events, you had to run all the way back to the boat ramp or to whatever rendezvous point was set up, right? If they had a lake sectioned off, they would create a rendezvous point. And you had to run back there, and then you would start the second period from that point. I haven't got confirmation of whether or not in this first event we're going to have to run back to the rendezvous point, right? Because you could be all the way at the bottom end of Kissimmee and they say, oh, you got 15 minutes. And you would literally, if you had to come back, you would literally spend 15 minutes driving back until they said, okay, line's in, and then you'd have to turn around and drive all the way back, right? You'd have to make your attempt to get back.
Yeah.
So it adds like a whole nother element of, I hope not guys like piled on top of each other in one lake, because Florida's known for that anyways. And that's like my biggest downfall since, Matt went ahead and threw my stats out there of Florida. Appreciate that.
Dude, you have never finished I know I'm not saying you're hiding from it, but I'm saying it's a shocker. When we had Swindle on, I was shocked at how many top 30s he had. And now we have you on, and I'm going through, and I'm seeing like 100th, 97th, 75th, and I'm like, wait a second, he's in the top 10 all the time in the Angler of the Year. Like, you suck in Florida.
Oh, I'm terrible. Man, it's like just my biggest motivating factor of like, hey, we're just going to start you out with a 105th place finish. So you're going to have to win AOI on 7 tournaments, not 8 tournaments. Good job. Like, it would have been more cost effective for me just to not go to Florida every year and just fish the rest of the year than like go down there, spend all the money, get my ass kicked, and then start all over. But it's a good motivator.
So is it a Florida thing? Is it the fact that you're from Idaho and it just fishes differently? Is it's the beginning of the year and you're usually chasing an elk until a couple weeks before the season? Like, what's the deal with it?
I think I've actually thought about this a lot, and it's not the like early season thing, because when we kicked off at Cherokee, I had a top 12.
Right.
So it's not the first tournament thing or the jitters or anything like that. It's literally just Florida, and it's not that I dislike Florida. I really enjoyed the type of fishing. I feel like it matches up really well to how I grew up fishing. I think the biggest thing that I can figure out that I dislike the most about Florida is how crowded it is when it comes to tournament fishing. Like, if we go to the St. Johns River, I cannot wrap my mind around going to Lake George and going in circles on one eelgrass point. Like, I just can't do it.
Yeah.
Like, I am so just like mentally distraught the entire tournament. I'm like, this isn't even worth it. Like, it is not worth the $10,000 payday to sit there and just have everybody yelling at each other and pissed off and like, that's my bed fish, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I won't do it. So I think that's like been my biggest downfall, is like, when you look at Florida, not necessarily the guy that wins, but majority of the top 50 checks will be cashed in a very small area, right? Like this week, I don't know what's going to happen because the format's so different. Things might be the same, things might be different, but like, even you go to places like Okeechobee, it'll all end up going down on like the North Shore, or it all goes down in the Monkey Box. It's like, it's just how Florida is.
I think one time I remember covering a tournament on the St. John's in Lake George there, and I counted 28 tournament boats that you could see without binoculars. You could just go, there's so-and-so, so you could see 28 different guys in a 100-boat field.
Yeah, I believe it. All right,
Brutal.
Brandon, when you made the move, and this is the only time that we're going to dive into this, but a legacy has somewhat been built for you on the BASS side. You were very vocal on your social media about why you made the decision, but I'm going to ask, as I have asked every single person that has made the move, was this a business decision or a fishing decision?
It was a future of the sport decision for me, is the best way I can put it. And I'll explain that a little bit better. And I've been like super open and honest to this point. I'm surprised like nobody from either organization has called me and like chewed me out for being so honest. But at like where it sits right now, I think that MLF has the best opportunity of growing the industry to non-fishing fans, right? Like taking the sport of fishing and taking it to a national mainstream level has the best opportunity for that. Bass has done a phenomenal job of growing the sport with high school and college fishing. And that is so important that I've seen it. I've seen how much like it's bringing not only kids in, but there's kids that get into it that their parents didn't fish at all, you know, and now their parents get into it because they're supporting their kids. So that's important. I think the biggest thing is that I realized the fishing industry and the amount of dollars that are in it are like this small compared to this massive amount of marketing dollars that are out there in the world. So how do we go and capture that, right? Like, how do we get outside of our little bubble and bring that in? And so as long as we can grow the value of the entire fishing industry, not just one circuit or, you know, a couple anglers, but grow the entire value of the fishing industry, that's not only good for the anglers, it's good for the tours, it's good for you and Matt sitting there in the studio, right? Like, there's just so much more possibilities and marketing dollars that are available that right now everybody's fighting for that small budget or that. And so that the pie is still only a personal size pan pizza from Pizza Hut. And we want to make it a double XL, right? And so that everybody still has there still is the same amount of slices of pie. You just get a bigger slice. You just get a bigger slice of pizza.
All right, hang on one second real quick, Matt, before I know you have a question. I want to let everybody know your questions on the instant feedback are coming in. A portion of this segment, we're going to go to the instant feedback, so just hold tight. All right, Matt.
All right, this is identical to what you were just talking about. I just really want to drive this point home. So let's go back to February 2011. This is before the Elite Series. This is before the wins. This is after the Bass Nation win, correct?
Yeah.
February 2011. We're talking cloth jersey, the blue and white with the Yamaha, the curved bill tucked in. This is a 20 questions that ESPN. This is a 20 questions that ESPN did with Brandon. And I'm sitting here and everyone's hearing him say this, but they're hearing him say this thinking of the rigid and the cross and the non-endemics that he's brought into it and going, this is everything you're hearing MLF say.
Yep.
This is what Brandon said, and I'm going to quote it in 2011.
This is bubble-nosed Brandon.
Yeah, he said, the question was, what are a few of your career goals? And he said this in 2011. A big one for me is that I want to bring new non-endemic sponsors into the industry. I've always been interested in that. I want to make the sport of fishing huge, almost comparable to NASCAR. Fishing has something that no other sport can offer. I want to see Nike and Gatorade and companies like those get involved. Besides that, and then I want to win the Classic and the Angler of the Year. Check the Angler of the Year off, and who knows in a couple months here. But I just thought that was interesting. That back then, young, like 20 years old, before all this stuff happened, you basically just said the quote that you said now. So it's not something that's, it's like new brainwash. This has been in you for a long time.
Good homework, man. Nobody else has brought that up.
That's how we roll, man.
Like, I didn't even think about that. Like, I didn't even remember doing that. But I'm really glad that you brought that up, because that makes me feel even better about my decision. Because I'll be honest, like, I've still been struggling with it. And so that's kind of like the fact that was literally before I had a single paying sponsor. Like, I was going into my first Bassmaster Classic and Elite Series with no paying sponsors.
So that makes you feel better. I'm going to go with the other side of the coin then, because I have the other side. I'm going to just ask you. You can answer this however you want to. But you go back to in October 1st when you made your announcement that you were going to the BPT, and you said you mentioned the biggest opportunity for growth in the sport for the 8-year-old kid that I was when I decided I wanted to fish. You said your deciding factor was the best opportunity for the next generation and a more clear path to go from an 8-year-old kid to a professional angler.
Yep.
I don't know if a lot of people realize that you had a top 10 in the TBF FLW, which was the Operation Bass back then, that federation. You also fished in the All-American, and then that same year you fished that 2010 Bass Federation Nation back then national championship that you won, which, side note, did you know you fished in that against Brandon Card?
No, I think, like, it's crazy. If you were to go back and
Brandon Card and Dale Hightower were both in that Federation Nation championship.
I knew that Hightower was, Yeah, there are some really good guys. Like if you go back and look at some of the like tournaments that we did good in, there would be like other guys that are Elite Series pros or or MLF pros or,
like that 2010 All-American that Troy Morrow won that. He's established now.
Yep.
Sean Goodwin, one of the best in history. He was there. Brad Hallman, who guest host, he fished in that one too. Anyway, to get sidetracked, I want to bring it back. So you've taken the clear path for the two major organizations, FLW and BASS, from the club level to the federation level to the national level to the Elite Series. But one of the biggest things you said when you moved to MLF was that you thought it had the potential for the clearest, cleanest path for a young kid to fish professionally. But I haven't seen that yet. Can you expand anything more on what has anything come over the past 3 or 4 months that has kind of made that a little bit clearer, the MLF path from kid to pro, or am I just jumping the gun here and we need to wait another couple years?
No, that's a very valid question. I have the same question, and I keep asking them the same question because that's something that's super important to me. So at this point, I tell kids all the time, like, if you're a high school kid and you're under the age of 16, you should be fishing high school tournaments. If you're above 16, you can fish the Bass Nation, you can fish high school, and when you graduate, you can fish college. Like, you should be doing that. The most important thing right now for like any kid that wants to come up is he just needs to be fishing. Like, you need to be on the water and you need to be fishing tournaments if that's possible. I don't care what it is. Like, at a young age, it shouldn't matter like what tour you think you should fish. You just need to be fishing. You don't need to be out there trying to get a bunch of sponsorships. You just need to be building a fundamental base of the most basic things of catching bass, and the rest of it will come. So at this point, I can't say that there's a clear path. All I know is that they say there's going to be a clear path. And that's me being 100% honest. And I look at it and say, I ask them all the time, what's that going to be? What's that look like? How do we form that? And all I've been told is that, it's in the works. And if in 3 years, that's not something that is like set up, or at least in the process of being set up, I'll walk away. Because that's something that I believe is really important, right? You have to have something where a kid can start out at 8 years old and fall in love with something and look and say, okay, I can do these steps and I can get to that point. So they have the ability to do it. I hope that they do it. I think the biggest thing is that I want those kids to be able to know that when they go through that there's actually a real potential for kids to make a living, right? Not 20 out of 100 guys making a living and the other 80 guys going back to work to pay off their bills from the year before. I want, if you make it to that level, shouldn't matter. Like, you should be able to fish and not worry about going back to work your normal job in the off season. Your off season should be prepping for the next year, not trying to build your bank account back up.
All right. Good
like
stuff there. Great stuff. All right. I want to go to the instant feedback now, Brandon. Clay in Arkansas wants to know, do you feel any more nerves going into this season than previous seasons?
No, not really. Like, I still want to win I still want to win every single event just like I did before. And I think, like, I've been so busy during the off season that I've hardly even thought about it. Like, I'm looking forward to tournament season getting here so that I can slow down and think about it. So,
no
nerves.
All right. Jake in Ohio wants to know, do you anticipate more on the water confrontations with score tracker updates and 40 boats?
That's all up to the anglers. I think there will be some, no matter what. Now, the good thing is that everybody is going to see it. right? So if a guy is catching them and he's there and somebody rolls up, everybody that's watching knows that that guy heard or probably saw when he was driving by where that other angler stopped. If it happens to me, I will gladly call you out and let the entire world know what you just did. And then you can defend yourself.
All right.
Have you ever been in an on-the-water confrontation? I mean, you've been covered a lot, and I'm going back through it, and you can think, yeah, this guy got into it with this guy, but I don't really know of any Brandon versus other angler confrontations that come to my mind. You don't have to name names, but
I've never had like a major one, because I've always felt like if you just communicate it, then it's not as big of a deal, right? And as if nobody's in the wrong, then it's fine, right? Like if two guys show up on a spot first thing, or they don't really know, then there's not really a confrontation. The biggest confrontation I ever had was with Denny Brower when he won on the Arkansas River. And it was my rookie year. Mm-hmm. Denny Brower was my all-time favorite pro because I loved flipping and pitching as a kid, and he was like the master of flipping and pitching. We locked down all the way back through there, and day one, I guess we were both down there in whatever the pool was. I can't remember the lake back there.
Yeah.
And like I had fished at the mouth of it, and he had fished in the back. And I didn't know that because I never saw him on day one. Well, day two, I had one brush pile that I wanted to fish, and I run all the way back in there. And I sat down on this brush pile, and I see Denny and another angler over there.
JVD.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it was. And so they're sitting over there, and they are going at it like, right, apparently they'd been arguing all morning. I'm like 100 yards away, and Denny comes over to me, and he starts chewing me out. And I'm like, Danny, I had no idea you were back here. I didn't know you knew about this brush pile. You weren't sitting on this brush pile. And so I just keep fishing it. And he idles by me, goes, and he fishes about 50 yards away while I catch one. I fish there a little bit longer, and I go to pick my trolling motor up to leave, and he comes back. He starts idling like at a half on plane pace and stops in front of me. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like I've just got over the fact that my idol chewed me out. And here he stops and he apologized. And he said, look, you're right. I didn't know that brush pile was there. I was just worried you were going to come in here and start fishing everything else I was fishing. I was like, look, Denny, I'm not going to get in your way. You're leading the tournament. I just literally want to fish this one brush pile. Had no idea you knew about it. And so like, I just knew that I wasn't in the wrong in that situation and just stood my ground, and then it ended up working out. And then I never went back. Like I told him where the brush pile was. I said, you can fish it. Day 3, I made day 3, have at it. I won't even go back there. Do your deal.
Wow.
So that's really the only major one.
That's a cool story.
That is a cool story.
That makes you guys both look really good there. I remember Denny was hot under the collar at the weigh-in on that one. That was the one where he was talking to one of the bass reporters that he had known for like 20 years. It was like Louis Stout.
Yeah.
And he had just gotten off the water. Things were heated. Had no idea anyone else was standing. Well, right over one of his shoulders was a Little Rock, Arkansas reporter. And he didn't know it. And Denny goes off, and this guy prints it.
Yeah.
And it turned into, I remember that one. And that was the same one. Clark Ream went off, and Jerry, it was in Jerry's backyard.
I still have that newspaper story sitting over there in that pile right there.
Oh, yeah. That was one of the, that was a long time ago, too. But that's a cool, another cool element.
Tensions were high, and I just happened to roll in at the wrong time. But then, I never lost any respect for him, but I gained even more respect for him. Like when he came back and it was like, okay, look, sorry, you're right. I get the position that he was in. Mm-hmm. And he's just fired up.
That was his last year. He retired after that year. Got a win in the last one. That big, cool kind of concrete amphitheater. Remember, it's like 195 degrees in that thing.
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right, back to the instant feedback. Andy in Indiana wants to know, do you feel there is a saturation of anglers trying to build a YouTube persona without having the street cred from a tournament perspective?
yes and no. So there's definitely more guys trying to build a YouTube presence, right? When I won Angler of the Year, that was only 2 years ago, pretty much a year ago. I mean, it was 17. I filmed the entire year. Last year, there were a couple more guys. This year, there's probably, 10, 12 guys with different YouTube series. Matt's doing one. Mm-hmm. It's awesome. You guys should watch it. And like, I go and I watch all that guy's stuff because I think it's cool. Like, I'm studying it. That's just the way of the world, right? TV is going down. Less and less people are watching TV. More people are watching streaming, internet, right? Everyone has a phone. That's what people want to see. Now, the thing with YouTube is majority of the actual fishing world doesn't know that tournaments exist. And so the people on YouTube don't necessarily have to have tournament street cred to the outside world that doesn't know that tournament fishing exists, right? That's why there's YouTube channels that have 10, 20, 30 times the amount of subscribers that I do, even though they may just be fishing off the bank, or they're just doing unboxings or different things. Like, that's just the way that the YouTube algorithm works. And that's, people just want to watch fishing and be entertained. They don't necessarily have to have, like a tournament credibility. That doesn't mean that they all necessarily, they all belong there, right? But you just have to look at it from a different light, right? And you have to, like, if the good thing is that you don't have to watch it.
He's right.
I mean, you watch mine for the train wreck. You watch Brandon's to learn how to fish. I mean, that's the reality of it.
They're both great learning tools.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. I had a question kind of piggybacking off of that. You mentioned, I know you've kind of been looking for boat drivers this year to follow you out. You're doing the same thing this year. What is your plan for the BPT coverage? And then assuming you make the 4 cups that are going to be filmed in the dark and the World Championship that's going to be filmed in the dark, how are you going to kind of handle that filming of that, or are you just not going to film that, kind of like you've done for the other MLF non-BPT affiliated cups in the past?
Yeah, so the cup stuff they won't let us film. Like, I haven't even been able to run my own GoPro in the past because they don't want that
leaked
footage leaking out. And I've tried signing NDAs or different things on that to at least have the footage to release with it when that tournament comes out, but we haven't got there yet. The Bass Pro Tour events, we're going to do all the same film all of the tournament days that we make it to. The cool thing is like in those first kind of 4 rounds, with anglers Group A and Group B, there's off days in there. And so that gives us time to edit and try to put more like daily type content out. So hopefully we'll be able to get stuff out quicker so people can see it sooner, more relatable.
All right, here's an interesting question from Craig in New York. He says, Brandon, was it hard to make the move when a number of the guys that you're going to be fishing against stated that you were overrated?
Oh, no. That just makes the move easier. Because if I win all 8 events plus the Red Crest, I'm just still overrated.
That's almost like the Russell Westbrook thing that they came out with. Who was it who said that he's not even an all-star now?
Yeah, Charles Barkley. Was it Charles Barkley?
No, it was Colin Coward.
Oh, yeah.
They're just saying that for the shock reaction.
Exactly.
He's got the Angler of the Year. He's got the Elite Series titles.
Yeah.
Please, by all means, continue to think that I'm overrated. Like, that is such a driving force.
Have you ever not caught him? I mean, you came on so young in 2010 and all that. I mean, what's the longest period you've gone where you were like, I hope maybe I might not get this back? Has there ever been a period like that?
Yeah, if we're in like Florida for like 3 weeks.
That's a good point.
I'm just, I don't know.
I'm just saying a lot of guys have ups and
longest-
downs. They're down, and then they gradually go on and catch it. You kind of came on and, won and had the classic, and then with the win on Bull Shoals, and then you just kept it rolling your whole career. There's never really been a down period.
Yeah, I would say like 2012 and 13, I had wins in both of those. And so the perception is that I caught them really well. But if you went back and looked at like the entire year of tournaments, I wasn't as like consistently up there as I would have liked to have been. I had more like 70s, 80s, and then I'd have like a 40. But I was, I'd finish in like the low 70s in AOI or something, or, in the 60s, 50s, something like that. So, it's funny to see like when you win an event, people will be like, oh man, you had a phenomenal year. But then you'll finish like 8th in the points and like, oh yeah, not a bad year, how do you feel about it? Like, man, I freaking smashed them all year long. I had top 10 in AOI. It's just different when you're actually there living the experience versus when you win one event and everyone sees it, and then the rest of the year you're like in the 40s.
All right. Matt, we've had this discussion. Brandon obviously is one of the more marketable anglers that are out there on tour. And I'm curious, Brandon, there were a number of sponsor questions on here, but I want to ask you this. Have you put yourself in the position to take advantage of the greater exposure from a live standpoint that you're going to hopefully be able to capitalize on this year, to be able to position that visibility and that marketability with the amount of live that's going to be there, to where you can actually position your brand at a higher rate due to the expected exposure that Major League Fishing is promising? Have you positioned that with companies?
So like none of my sponsorship stuff has really changed, right? Like when I made the switch, it wasn't like all my contracts went up. That's not how it works. Right? Like we still have to prove that this is a better format to promote ourselves on. We all think that it will be, and when you look at the available numbers, it's pretty likely that we're all going to get and gain more exposure. Figuring out how to monetize that is difficult, right? Because all of that exposure it's not coming directly to my pages, right? I'm like a byproduct of Major League Fishing Live. So it grows Major League Fishing first, and then it goes to the anglers. And it's going to be that way in any tournament circuit, right? Like I can't name every single guy in the NFL, but I can tell you what the NFL is.
Right.
And that's just the way that it works. I think what live coverage does, and when you put more live cameras on more guys, it just does exactly that. It exposes people, exposes their personalities. It's crazy to think about, I know, but like the fact that you're exposing guys' personalities. Some guys are going to be marketable, some guys aren't. Some are going to resonate better with other people. There's some people that don't like me. That's okay. As long as I'm not trying to be somebody else, I'm good with it. And I think from a marketing standpoint, there's a lot more that goes into it than just catching fish. But catching fish is still the most important.
No.
I don't know if you could hear that, but someone kept trying to call on Skype during the interview. That's what Brandon saw you reacting, going, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "I didn't know I was saying anything that controversial."
I've been working on that, trying to get the software dialed in, and obviously there needs to be some more work.
There's more so for the courtesy call that was trying to come through than what you were saying there, that. Brandon. He was confused on that. Mark, you demonstratively gesturing during a non.
I thought he was like, well,
no.
That's when Brandon starts throwing all these qualifiers in there on the interview, and I'm like, no.
It had nothing to do with that, okay? I'm sorry. It was just my frustration with this stupid software. All right. Hey, a guy wants to know, are you going to be able to promote your jerky sponsor? Do you have a beef jerky sponsor?
No, I don't have a jerky
So
sponsor.
the answer is no. He
I
will
guess
be.
not. I wouldn't
No,
aware of
but
that.
if there's a jerky sponsor out there that, I mean, I love jerky, so throw it out there.
You're now, on the sponsor, though, you're now not the only angler on tour using Alpha Angler rods, though. You've added,
This is true.
Gerald Spoor
Yeah, we added
now?
Gerald Spoor.
That's kind of cool.
So there's
Yeah, it is
two
cool.
anglers. Is that right? Two? You? And
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
it's just me and Gerald on the national level, and then, we've got some West Coast guys and different guys kind of across the country on, smaller deals, but we're just chipping away, trying to grow at a manageable rate. We're not going to go out there and try to pull a ton of investor money and then just go try to pay a bunch of guys money.
Interesting.
We've had that discussion off air about a couple of situations
Look at how
dealing with that.
closely closed Brandon's mouth is right now after that statement.
I'm just like,
We can move on. Next viewer question.
I'm perfectly okay going into this topic if you guys want to. Like, we're just doing stuff so different. Like, our rods are not coming from the same factories that a ton of the other ones are. Like, we want to do it different, right? We're doing it in an unconventional manner. Our target is not the mass fishing market. Our market is the tournament guys. Like, we're building the best rod possible, and then we're direct to consumer so that those guys don't have to pay $600 for it, right? They can be $225 to $300 because we save them that markup, right? And it probably hurts us on some sales because guys can't feel it in their hand, but it's the only way that we can do it in an unconventional method or manner and do it the way that we think they should be done.
I feel like it's more, and it might be kind of that mountain west coast side deal, but it's kind of like there's a lot of little fly rod companies that are like that, kind of smaller fly rod companies that are, hand quality. I feel like it's kind of like that that kind of marketing strategy that you're using.
Yeah, and it really keeps us connected to like the customers. Like, we can get instant feedback, and we're able to kind of move with the market, I think, a lot quicker than like major corporations. We don't have to go through as many like clearings to get something done, right? If we're like, oh, let's build this rod, we just do it.
All right. Did you mention that you were looking for camera boat guys? Did you say
literally like almost every single event, but even I'm still haven't nailed down a camera boat driver for Toho next week. So
okay, well, Matt P in North Carolina said that he could do it for you at the Raleigh event.
I might have a guy there, but if not,
if you want to, how do people get in contact with you? If
how do
they're
they do
from
that?
all over the country, or
Instagram,
these things,
you can send me an email, Brandon@bmpfishing.com.
There you go.
There you have it.
And
Send
you
me
pay
an email.
what, $2,000-3,000 a day? That's the standard rate.
You better find that really good paying jerky sponsor.
There you have it. All right, man, I got to ask this. With what we've discussed as far as your history in Florida, what are your expectations next week?
Win.
I remember, dude, I remember last year when we had you on, and he
Win
made the
every
statement,
one.
I'm going to win every single one of them.
No,
Yeah.
that was his goal. He didn't say he was going to.
That was his goal.
His
That's what
goal
I'm saying.
was to win every single one.
Yeah, I still have the mentality that I want to win every single event. I'm actually slightly excited to fish Florida in a different format just to see if it changes anything. Right? Like, does that change how guys approach, and does that change how well I do in Florida? So I'm kind of curious to see that, like how much just that format change will make guys adapt, or will it be exactly the same, right? Like, will the same Florida hammers still catch them?
for those of you who laugh at Brandon's goal to win every one, it has been done. The term is Hanselmania. It was done in the Costas where he won all three, Ray Hanselman, and then won the championship on 3 very different bodies of water. So,
Yep, and he's working on it again this year.
Oh, yeah, I was there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, okay, this is what I tell people all the time. It is not probable, but it is possible. That's good enough for me.
No, you're right. You're right. All right, man. Great stuff. Matthew, anything else?
Yeah. I don't know if we need to bring this up on air or off air, but there's a certain bait that has been talked about on the show that I need to get my hands on that's supposedly coming out very soon that you have your design all over.
Yeah, you need a glide bait. You need a Stormarashi glide bait is what you're talking about.
Yeah, Carl was singing its praises on the show last week.
Yeah, it is it's a fish catching machine. It's been 3 years in the works.
Wow.
Lots of different weighting options, lots of different molds, and I mean, it took 3 years to get it to where I want. And in all of the bait designing process, that's been the one that I've been the most particular about. And the things that I wanted it to be able to do contradict themselves. So if you want it to swim super fast and reel it, be able to burn it and not blow out, but then you also want it to be able to twitch and glide wide, those things work against each other. And so it took a lot of tweaking to be able for it to do all those different things in one bait and be at a price point of $35.
So, okay, compare it. This is just me asking a very personal question. So you guys are just going to have to bear with me because I want to know about this.
The floor is yours, Matthew.
So take a Depths 175, the slide swimmer, the jointed claw, the 178, the negotiator from Roman Made, and a River to Sea S waver. Which one of those? Is it a combination of all of those, or which one is it more similar to? Because, I know you throw a bunch of that stuff.
So I'm not a huge Depths 175 fan, but the 250 has always been awesome. So it's if a Depths 250, a negotiator, and a jointed claw 230 had a baby, it would be the Rashi Glide.
Okay, there's 7 people in California who understand that, but I get it.
Yeah, you get it. Okay. You can Google those, but all 3 of those do 1 or 2 things really well, but can't do everything. And that was literally my goal. Was okay, instead of having all these different baits, if I want to get new people into throwing swim baits, why don't I just make one that's able to do all these different techniques? And then as a tournament angler, it's way easier for me. I just pull that one out.
When's it going to be out?
Unfortunately, they're telling me July now. Tell me ICAST.
You're killing me, Brandon.
Wow.
Yeah. You're killing me.
Good price point, though.
Yeah. Great price point.
Yeah. All right. A couple questions real quick from the instant feedback, and then we're going to wrap things up. Hey, Courtney in Louisiana wants to know, are you going to be able to fish out of your own boat in the Cup events?
No.
Okay.
So that's one thing that I'm not a huge fan of. You just got to kind of look at those as separate entities. Obviously wish I could fish out of my own stuff. A lot more comfortable in that. But all the Bass Pro Tour stuff, Red Crest, we'll be able to fish out of our own boats. And the Cups and the World Championship, we will not be able to.
All right. Brian from Lake Norman wants to know, any idea why Storm discontinued the rattling version of the Arashi Square?
Probably because you guys didn't buy enough of them.
I guess Brian liked them.
I mean, yeah. I don't know, because I liked them too. But there's a lot of that stuff that is above and beyond my control.
All right. Anything else, Matthew?
No.
All right. Apologize because we couldn't get to a number of instant feedback messages that are still out there. But as always, Brandon, you're welcome. Anytime you have a chance, an opportunity to come on when we ask you. So appreciate you taking time out in your travels to the first event. But best of luck to you next week, man.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
All right. Take care. Good luck next week, man. See you. All right. There you have it. Brandon Palahniuk. And pretty good stuff there, Matthew. Some interesting questions. And I think we brought up a lot of valid points. And he obviously justified his decision. And I think it's cool that he's been very vocal about the importance of establishing the feeder system.
And he's not afraid to say that he doesn't know and that that's what concerns him and that there are issues with it. And if it doesn't work out, he's done. But, you know, everyone has gone about this differently, and everyone has chosen to talk about it differently. And some guys refuse to acknowledge any shortcomings, and some guys think there are only shortcomings. And I think Brandon is a great mix of seeing the potential, but also realizing maybe some of the issues with it. I think it's a healthy outlook at it. Optimistic.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, I've asked the question to the MLF guys before on this show, what do you think 2019 is going to look like compared to 2020? And I think we're not going to be able to truly judge what is going to happen from an MLF perspective with this year. I think it's going to have to evolve over the next 2, maybe even 3 years to where we really get a good indication of what this thing's all about.
Day one, the live schedule comes out for MLF. Are you going to be watching?
100%. I think it's going to be huge. I think because it's that curiosity factor. People want to see what this thing's all about. Agreed?
I agree.
Yeah. Now, what they do from there, we'll see. We'll see. The interest is there. The fan base is there from a perspective of, hey, I want to see what the hype is all about. I mean, that's kind of human nature, though. But especially when you're entrenched as a fan and you see the movement that has taken place of all the big names from Bass over to MLF.
And we just had on one of the biggest.
One of the biggest.
For the next 20 years.
We want to see what this thing's all about, and that's why they're going to watch. So hopefully they have massive quantities of bandwidth in place, servers in place, because I think that first event, they're going to get blown away. Just from a curiosity standpoint.
Would you say under the age of 30 that Palaniuk and Lucas were the two most important pulls that MLF got?
Yeah.
Would you throw Wheeler in there too?
Yeah.
Those are the three big young guys.
Yeah, somebody said.
There's some others. But.
somebody said that I needed a haircut. Yeah, I got that on the schedule tomorrow.
It's been a little loopy on the front.
It's
like you
keep
keep doing
freaking long. I know, it's too long. It's too long, and I was in a rush this morning. So, yeah.
You need some product.
It sucks that I can't wear a hat.
It's too well conditioned. Well, we can both wear visors for tomorrow's show because we got Bernie on. I feel like that would be
Yeah. So I have a haircut on the agenda for Friday.
It is very feathery.
Yeah, that's a done deal. So I'm getting the trim on Friday. Let's see here. Tomorrow you mentioned Bernie Schultz on. We're going to talk Florida. Doesn't the Open kick off tomorrow too, Matthew?
Is day one? Wednesday?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's also a Costa maybe.
Yeah, today is Wednesday, my friend.
Yeah.
All right. And then somebody on the instant feedback asked, when is Boyd going to come back to the show? Well,
that's a good question.
I already have him booked. He is booked for the Tuesday following the very first Major League Fishing event on Lake Tahoe. So that Tuesday, Boyd Duckett's going to be on live via Skype to give his take, obviously, and take questions from the fans on what his thoughts were with the very first BPT on Lake Tahoe. So
how much on the water time do you think Boyd has gotten since all this broke?
0. I'll be honest. I have asked him. Very, very, very little. Very little. In fact, I would say right now, based upon the conversations that I've had with him, he doesn't even have anything ready to go yet.
If the BPT takes off, major non-endemic sponsors, it is awesome. How long does Boyd fish before he moves into an administrative role with BPT?
I think he always fishes.
Think he always fishes?
Yep.
Because I've been around him, he loves the competition and the mental game. But I'm just curious because he's got so much going off of the water too.
Yeah, there's no way that he would ever take a office job and not fish in his involvement. Now, in his 70s or 80s, maybe.
So he's still got another 20, 30 years to go.
When he gets to the point that he physically cannot go through
I guess we can ask him that.
Yeah.
We'll ask him that.
But I would be shocked if he said anything different than that, Matthew. He's going to fish as long as he can fish. All right. What else, man?
That's it.
All right.
Sweater vest looking good.
I need a haircut.
But you do need a haircut.
Hang on, I gotta
I think Wheeler just had a baby, too. I saw that on social media.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. So, Bernie Schultz. Now, next week, all right, what we're going to do, our man Dave Rush is going to be on location for the first event at Lake Toho. We're going to have him on the show live right now on Tuesday.
Okay.
All right. And we're going to get his take on what's going down during practice. And we will have him on the show. Also in the works, just make sure you check out the website on the guests that we're going to have lined up in the future. I'm working on the lineup right now. Good stuff. Make sure that if you're listening on iTunes and you have not reviewed our show, please be honest. Give us a review. Hopefully give us 5 stars. And then also, if you're watching live on YouTube or watching the replay on YouTube, make sure you subscribe.
You have to have a YouTube account.
Got to have a YouTube account. So sign up, get a YouTube account, and subscribe to where you get notifications.
Click the little bell. Turn the notifications on. That way when we go live, it lets you know it's live. When the replay's out, it lets you know the replay's out. You can watch that.
Yep.
It makes your life easier.
Yep.
Great. And our life better.
Great stuff. I want to thank Brandon Palahniuk for being on the show and Bernie Schultz tomorrow. Everybody be safe. We will talk to you for show number 4 tomorrow on Thursday. Everybody be safe. We're out of here.